the sea burns, not with flame, but with a white fire that eats the stars from the sky and turns night to a blinding, merciless dawn. Waves rear like glass, frozen mid-crash, as a slender ship of swan prow and silver hull hangs between worlds. Upon its mast, a star blazes too close, too low, too hungry. And as that star begins to fall toward Middle-earth, the world holds its breath and forgets how to pray. If this kind of deep dive into alternate Tolkien timelines pulls you in, tap like so more wanderers can find it, and subscribe so you do not miss the next turning of the legendarium. Tell me in the comments which realm you would defend in this timeline. Gondolin's echo, Numenor's pride, or the hidden havens of the elves. The ship tilts. Earendil clings to the rigging, hair whipped by winds that are not winds, starlight cutting his skin like knives. Above him, the Silmaril blazes in its crystal, bound to the prow by chains of mithril and spells of the valor. It has guided him over the bent sea, across the shadowy seas, to the shores of the undying lands. It has shone before the thrones of Manwë and Varda as he knelt and begged for mercy upon elves and men. Now it pulls. He feels it as a weight, not of metal, but of fate, tugging the ship away from the west, away from the high airs where he has been set as a star. The decree of the valor rings still in his mind, stern and sorrowful. "You shall be as a star set in the sky," Manwë had said. "Never again shall your feet tread the mortal lands." But the Silmaril had answered in a voice of light that only Earendil heard, a voice like the echo of Feanor's pride and Lúthien's song and Thingol's doom. Not yet. The prow shudders. The white flame around the gem flares, then narrows, focusing like a spear of dawn. Beneath the keel there is no longer sea, only emptiness, a thinness in the world. Earendil hears Elwing cry out behind him, feels her hand clutch his arm. "Earendil," she whispers, though no air should bear her voice here. "It will break you." He bares his teeth against the light. "Then let it," he says. Middle-earth still burns. The ship falls. It knifes down through the high airs, through cold so pure it is like the absence of all sound. Stars smear into streaks of white. Below, a curve of darkness grows. The world, veiled in night, its lands and seas no more than a suggestion. The Silmaril screams, though it has no throat, a rising keen that shakes the bones of the mariner. The first clouds strike like stone. Vapor flashes to steam around the hull. Lightning blossoms, crawling over the silver wood. The star that should have remained forever in the heavens plunges, tearing a wound in the sky. Far below, fishermen off the coasts of Lindon drop their nets and stare upward, eyes wide, as a second dawn descends where no dawn should be. In Mithlond, Círdan the shipwright wakes from uneasy sleep and staggers to the balcony of his high house. The harbor lies black and still, masts a forest of shadows. Above the western sea, a line of white fire is drawing itself down, like a sword being laid across the sky. He grips the stone rail until his knuckles pale. "Earendil," he breathes, and his voice is a mixture of awe and dread. "What have you done?" The ship strikes the sea. There is no sound at first, only light. A disk of white radiance blooms where the prow meets the waves, flattening them, turning water to steam in an instant. Then the shock comes. A wall of thunder rolls outward, shattering the silence of the night. Waves race from the impact point, towering, luminous, crowned with light that is not reflected, but born. Far inland, in the dark pine forests of Eriador, A shepherd looks up from his fire as the trees around him flash to stark black silhouettes. He feels the ground shiver under him, hears the distant, dull roar of a sea that is many leagues away. The Silmaril sinks. It drags the ship with it, chains snapping one by one, each break a flare of brilliance. Earendil is thrown to the deck. Elwing's cry is lost in the roar of boiling water. For a heartbeat, the gem hangs just beneath the surface, a white heart in a whirlpool of steam and shattered waves. Then it falls into the deeps of Belagaer, and the sea closes over the star of Feanor. The world darkens. In Valinor, upon Taniqatil, Manwë rises from his throne. The eagles of the west wheel and cry out, feeling a thread in the tapestry of the world's snap. Varda's hand still upon her work of stars, and her eyes, that see farther than any, narrow in sorrow and sudden fear. "He has broken the doom," says Namo, his voice like distant thunder, "and the light has returned to the lands of the hither shore." "In part," Varda answers softly, "in part only. The jewel falls, but its fire is not quenched. It will not lie quiet in the deeps." In the darkness far below the waves, where no sun has ever reached, the Silmaril sinks through black waters. Strange, pale creatures scatter from its path. Pressure mounts, crushing, relentless. The crystal casing groans. Light seeps out. At first it is a thin, steady glow, a sphere of white in the abyss. Then, as the weight of the sea presses harder, hairline fractures spiderweb across the gem's prison. From each crack, light leaks like blood, tendrils of radiance curling through the water. The deeps of Belagaer begin to shine. On the surface, the storm calms. The waves that had leapt like mountains subside, though swells still roll toward the coasts. The night returns, but it is not the same night. Far out at sea, beneath the stars, a ghostly glow pulses from below, faint but growing. Earendil's ship rocks, half shattered, timbers charred and steaming. Earendil drags himself to his knees. His hands are burned where he had grasped the chains of the Silmaril. Elwing lies beside him, hair plastered to her face, eyes wide with shock. "Did you see?" he gasps. It fell. It fell into the deeps. Elwing stares at the water, at the slow, unnatural light welling up from beneath. "Yes," she whispers, "but it is not gone." He feels it too. A tug, not upward now, but outward, like a current seizing the ship. The white glow from the depths spreads, a vast, dim wheel of light turning beneath the surface. The sea around them warms, steam drifting in low veils. Earendil looks west, toward the hidden shores of Aman, then east, toward the darkness where Middle-earth lies. He knows, with the grim clarity of one who has sailed beyond hope, that the choice he made has broken the straight path forever. In Lindon, dawn comes late. The fishermen who saw the falling star huddle in the taverns of Mythland, speaking in low voices, hands wrapped around cups of hot drink they barely taste. Outside, the harbor is restless. Ships tugging at their moorings, ropes creaking. The water glows faintly, as if lit from below by a distant, wandering moon. Círdan stands on the quays, his beard damp with sea spray, eyes never leaving the west. Behind him, footsteps sound on the stone. Gil-galad, High King of the Noldor in Middle-earth, comes to stand at his side. The young king's face is pale in the half-light, his silver circlet beaded with mist. "You saw it," Gil-galad says quietly. "I saw more than I wished," Círdan answers. "The star of high hope fell, yet hope does not fall so neatly as a stone into the sea." Gil-galad follows his gaze, far out where the horizon blurs into cloud, the water gleams with a faint, shifting radiance. "What is it?" he asks. "Is it the wrath of the Valor? Is this the end that was promised to Morgoth's realm?" Círdan shakes his head slowly. "No. If the Valor had chosen to break the world, we would not stand to watch it. This is something else. I have known Earendil since he was a child in the havens of Sirion. There was always a wildness in him, a refusal to accept walls, whether of stone or of doom. He has done something that was forbidden." Gil-galad's hand tightens on the stone railing. "Then the doom of Mandos has been broken," he says. "What follows when the decrees of the powers are defied?" Círdan does not answer. In the silence, a low, distant sound reaches them, not the crash of waves, but a hum, deep and steady, as if the sea itself were singing in a voice too low for mortal ears. The first to truly feel the change are not kings or shipwrights, but the small folk along the coasts. In a fishing village south of Mithlond, a boy named Taran wakes in the night to find his room filled with pale light. He thinks it is dawn and stumbles to the window, rubbing sleep from his eyes, only to find the sky still black, stars bright. The light comes from the sea. He runs barefoot through the chill air, past the huts and drying nets, down to the shingle. The tide is out, but the wet sand shines, reflecting a glow that is not the moon's. Far offshore, the water pulses with light, slow and steady, like the breathing of some vast creature. He wades in until the cold bites his ankles. The water is clear as glass, and he can see down, farther than he should. Strange shapes move in the depths, silhouettes of fish and other stranger things, all limbed in pale fire. Behind him, his mother calls his name, voice sharp with fear. He does not answer. He cannot look away from the light. "Do you feel it?" he whispers, though he does not know to whom he speaks. It feels warm. The warmth creeps up his legs, a gentle tingling. The small cuts on his feet, earned from sharp shells and careless steps, stop stinging. The ache in his knees from a fall the previous day fades. He laughs, a small, incredulous sound. His mother reaches him, seizes his arm, drags him back. "Are you mad, Taran?" she scolds, voice trembling. "You do not go into the sea when it glows like that. It is not right. It is not natural." He looks up at her, eyes wide. "But it healed me," he says. "The hurts are gone." She stills, staring at his feet. The blood that had stained the water is gone. The cuts are closed, pink and new. For a moment, fear wars with wonder in her face. Then she shivers and pulls him away from the water's edge. "We will speak to the elders," she says. "This is a thing for lords and wizards, not for fisherfolk." Word spreads. By the time the sun rises, late and pale, stories are already moving along the coasts, of a light in the deep, of water that heals, of fish that glow like silver fire and taste sweeter than any catch before. In Mithlond, Gil-galad's messengers ride out. In the hidden Imladris, Elrond half-elven feels a tug in his blood, a call from the sea that he cannot ignore. He stands on a balcony overlooking the waterfalls, the sound of tumbling water a constant murmur. The air is cool, scented with pine and damp stone. Behind him, Glorfindel steps softly. "You feel it too," Glorfindel says, not as a question. Elrond nods, hands clenched on the carved stone rail. "I do," he says, a warmth, a pull, as if some part of me were being called home. "I know this light. I have never seen it with my eyes, but I know it. It is in the tales of my childhood, in the songs my mother sang when she thought I slept. Glorfindel's golden hair catches the morning light. Earendil, he says. My father, Elrond answers, voice tight. Or his jewel, the Silmaril. It has returned to Middle-earth. Glorfindel is silent for a moment, his gaze distant, as if seeing long ages past. The Silmarils are bound to the fate of Arda, he says softly. They have brought ruin wherever they have gone. Yet they are also the last unshadowed light of the two trees. If that light has come back to these shores, Elrond turns to him, eyes shadowed. Hope, he says. Or doom, perhaps both. He looks west, though the sea is many leagues distant, hidden by mountains. I must go, he says. I must see it with my own eyes. Glorfindel inclines his head. Then I will ride with you, he says. For where the light of Feanor burns, the sons of Feanor are never far behind, and they are not all accounted for. Far to the south, in a land of broken coasts and tangled forests, another hears of the sea's new light. In the hidden fastness of Amun-Ereb, Maedhros, son of Feanor, sits in a cold hall, the fire on the hearth burning low. His right hand, the one that remains to him, rests on the arm of his chair. His eyes, dark and deep, stare into the flames without seeing them. Maglor stands nearby, harp silent in his hands. His face is drawn, his once fair features lined with grief and long wandering. He watches his brother with a mixture of love and dread. A scout kneels before them, mud on his boots, cloak damp with sea spray. My lords, the scout says, voice unsteady. There is something in the sea, a light. The fishermen speak of water that heals, of fish that shine. They say a star has fallen into the deeps. Maglor's fingers tighten on the harp. A star, he repeats, or a jewel. Maedhros' gaze sharpens. The firelight reflects in his eyes like a distant, remembered blaze. Which coast? He asks. North, the scout answers. Off the lands they now call Lindon. The glow is strongest there, they say, but it spreads. Some claim to have seen it even off the coasts of Minhiriath and Enedwaith, faint but growing. Maedhros rises slowly. The movement is stiff. Pain is an old companion. He walks to the narrow window that looks west. Though no sea is visible from this height, the Silmaril of the sky, he says, half to himself, the one we could never reach. We swore the oath upon all three, Maglor. We swore by the name of Ilúvatar himself that we would not allow any to keep them from us. Maglor's face twists. We have broken enough oaths, he says. We have spilt enough blood. The havens of Sirion, the children we stole, his voice catches. Elrond and Elros, Earendil's sons. If this light is his, if it comes from the jewel he bore to Valinor, Maedhros turns, his expression a mask of iron. The oath does not sleep, he says. You feel it as I do. It burns. It whispers. It will not let us rest while even a shard of the Silmarils remains outside our hands. We are damned, brother. We have been damned since we stood in Tirion and spoke those words. There is no peace for us in repentance, only in the fulfillment of our doom. Maglor's hands tremble on the harp, and if by reaching for that peace we bring ruin upon what little remains of the Eldar, he asks. If we tear apart the last havens of our people in pursuit of a light that has only ever brought us sorrow, Maedhros' gaze is unyielding. Then we will do as we have always done, he says. We will choose the oath over all else, for there is nothing left to us but that. He looks back to the west, though the sea lies hidden. Prepare the riders, he says. We go north. The light in the deep grows. Days pass. then weeks. The glow beneath the western seas spreads like spilled milk, like roots of light reaching out along the ocean floor. It threads through undersea canyons, brushes the hulls of sunken ships, wakes creatures that have slumbered since the world was young. On the coasts, the tides change. At first, it is subtle. The high tides are a little higher, the low tides a little lower. The fishermen of Linden curse as their boats ground more often on unexpected shoals. Then the currents shift. Warm water flows where cold once ruled. Strange fish, never before seen in these waters, appear in the nets, silver-scaled, with eyes that shine faintly even in death. Healers begin to whisper. A woman in Mythland, old and frail, her hands twisted with pain, is carried to the water's edge at dusk. Her daughters lower her into the shallows, their arms straining. The sea glows softly around her, a gentle radiance. She gasps as the water touches her skin. The ache that has been her constant companion for years ebbs like a receding tide. She weeps, not from pain, but from the sudden, bewildering absence of it. When they help her back to shore, she stands without aid, her back straight. Word of such things moves faster than any messenger. In a tavern near the harbor, a man from far inland, his accent thick with the hills of Earendil, leans across the table. They say the sea can cure any hurt, he says, eyes bright. That if you bathe in the glowing water, your wounds close, your sickness flees. Think of it. No more wasting fevers. No more children taken by cough and chill. His companion, a trader from Tharbad, snorts. And what price will the Lord set on this miracle, he asks. Do you think they will let us common folk wade in the waters of the Valor's light for free? Already the guards watch the beaches more closely. Already the priests mutter about blasphemy and the power's wrath. The first quarrels break out on the shores. A group of fishermen from a small village in Linden try to launch their boats at night, hoping to reach the brightest part of the glow where, they have heard, the healing is strongest. They are turned back by Gil-galad's soldiers, who have orders to keep folk from venturing too far into the altered sea. You do not understand, one of the fishermen protests, a man with a scarred face and a bandaged arm. My son is sick. The healers can do nothing. But the water, they say the water can save him. The captain of the guard's jaw tightens. I am sorry, he says. The king has decreed that no one is to sail into the heart of the glow until we understand what it is. We do not know its limits, its dangers. We cannot risk lives on the hope of a miracle. The fisherman's eyes blaze. What risk is there greater than watching your child die? He demands. I will take my chances with the sea. He moves to shove past. The guard blocks him. There is a scuffle. Voices rise. Stones are thrown. Someone draws a knife. Blood darkens the sand, red against the pale glow. Gil-galad hears of the incident that night. He stands in his hall, banners hanging still in the cool air, Círdan at his side. The messenger kneels, breathless, reporting the clash. Gil-galad's face is grave. They will not be the last, Círdan says quietly. As the tales of healing spread, more will come. From inland, from distant lands. Not all will accept our caution. Gil-galad's fingers drum on the arm of his chair. We are the stewards of this coast, he says. We must protect our people. But from what? From a light that heals, or from what that light may become? He looks to Círdan. You have sailed more seas than any, he says. What do you feel when you stand by that water? Círdan's gaze is distant, as if he sees waves beyond the walls. I feel wonder, he says, and I feel fear. The Silmarils have never been tame things. They are not gifts, they are challenges. Feanor did not ask the Valor's leave to make them, and his pride set much in motion. Now his work has returned, changed, broken, its light seeping into the very bones of the world. He turns to the king. This is no mere blessing, he says. It is a power. And where there is power, there will be those who seek to claim it. Far to the east, in the black depths of Angban's ruins, something stirs. The War of Wrath has shattered Morgoth's fortress. Its pits are filled with rubble, its iron halls broken. The Valar have cast the dark enemy beyond the walls of the world, but not all of his servants are gone. In a cavern deep beneath the wreckage, where the fires have not yet fully died, a shape moves. It is a shadow within shadow, a presence like a wound in the air. Yellow eyes open, slitted and cold. Sauron, once lieutenant of Morgoth, has hidden himself in the deeps, nursing his strength, gathering the tattered remnants of his will. He has felt the fall of the star as a tremor in the very fabric of Arda. He has felt the spreading light like a sickness in his master's old dominions. He stands on a ledge overlooking a chasm where molten rock still glows faintly. His form is fair, for he has not yet chosen the guise of terror he will later wear. His hair is dark, his features noble, almost elven, though his eyes betray him. So, he murmurs, voice echoing off the stone. The jewel returns, the light of the trees, loosed into the world's waters. He lifts a hand, feeling the faintest warmth in the air, though the sea is far away. Feanor's work, he says. Always Feanor's work that unbalances the scales. He smiles, a small, cold curve of the lips. The Valar will not like this, he says. Their decrees have been defied. Their light runs wild. There will be consequences. He turns away from the chasm, his cloak swirling. And in consequence, he says, opportunity. He begins to climb toward the upper tunnels, where orcs skulk and fearfully whisper of tremors and strange lights in distant skies. He will need servants. He will need eyes on the coasts. He will need to understand this new power. For if the light of the Silmaril has seeped into the sea, then the world itself has become a vessel of something that was once locked away, and Sauron has always been a master of forging and binding. On the shores of Lindon, Elrond arrives. He rides with a small company, Glorfindel at his side, banners of Imladris snapping in the salt wind. The road from the east is long, winding through green hills and along the banks of the Lune. As they crest the last rise, the sea spreads before them, a vast, gleaming expanse, its surface dappled with sunlight. And beneath that sunlight, aglow, Elrond reins in his horse, breath catching. The water is not merely blue, it is shot through with pale, shifting light, like veins of silver in dark stone. The glow is strongest to the west, where the horizon shimmers. He dismounts, walking forward as if in a dream. The air smells of salt and something else. A faint sweetness like the scent of rain on dry earth. He kneels at the water's edge, letting the waves wash over his hands. Warmth floods his fingers, then his arms, then his chest. It is not the heat of fire, but a gentle, pervasive warmth, like sunlight filtered through leaves. For a moment, all the old aches in his heart, the griefs of Sirion and the long wars, ease. He hears a voice, distant and yet near, like an echo in his blood. He bows his head, tears stinging his eyes. "Father," he whispers. Glorfindel stands a little way off, watching, his expression soft with understanding and sorrow. Behind them, Gil-galad and Círdan approach, their steps measured. Elrond, Gil-galad says. You feel it strongly? Elrond rises slowly, water dripping from his hands. I do, he says. It is him, or a part of him, the Silmaril he bore. Its light is in the sea now, and it calls to me as my own blood does. Cyrdan's gaze flicks to the glowing waves. Then Earendil has truly broken the path, he says. He has brought the forbidden light back to Middle-earth. Elrond's jaw tightens. Forbidden or not, he says, it is here, and it is changing things. Already I have seen men healed by its touch. Already there are whispers of miracles. How long before those whispers become demands? How long before warlords march to claim the shining coasts? Gil-galad's eyes darken. We must decide, he says. Do we embrace this light, or do we seek to contain it? Do we invite our allies to share in it, or do we guard it as a secret of the West? Círdan looks from the young king to the half-elven lord. If we hoard it, he says, we will sow resentment and fear. If we share it, we may unleash forces we cannot control. But the sea does not ask our leave to touch distant shores. Even now, that light is washing against lands we do not rule. He nods eastward, where the coasts of Enedwaith and Minhiriath lie, and farther still, the shores of Harad and the deserts beyond. The choice may not be ours to make, he says, as if in answer, far to the south, a caravan of Haradrim crests a dune and sees, for the first time, the distant gleam of the altered sea. They pause, their camels snorting, the wind tugging at their bright scarves. Their leader, a woman with tattoos of curling serpents along her arms, shades her eyes. The old song spoke of a shining water, she says, a gift of the West that would one day wash the dust from our land. Perhaps they were not mere fables. She turns to her people. We go to the light, she says, for if it is a gift, we will drink of it. And if it is a weapon, we will learn its edge. In the green land of Eregion, Celebrimbor, son of Curufin, stands before his forge, staring at a basin of seawater that glows faintly in the dim light. The water had been brought by swift riders from the coast, sloshing in sealed jars, guarded as if it were molten gold. He had poured a little into the basin, his hand steady, his heart racing. Now he watches as the water shimmers, light moving within it like slow lightning. He dips a finger in. Warmth floods his skin, up his arm, into his chest. For a moment, he feels as if he stands beneath the two trees, Laurelin's gold and Telperian's silver mingling overhead. He has never seen those trees, but the memory of their light lives in his blood, in the stories of his grandfather Feanor, passed down in whispers and in the line of his craft. He pulls his hand back, breathing hard. This is it, he says softly. The light he captured, loosed into the waters of the world. Behind him, Narvi the dwarf watches, thick arms folded. And what will you do with it, Elf Lord? Narvi asks. You have that look in your eye, the look you get when you see a new alloy or a strange gem. It is not enough for you to gaze upon it. You must shape it. Celebrimbor laughs, a short, breathless sound. Of course, he says, it is in my nature, in my blood. This light is raw, unbound. It heals flesh, yes. But what of stone? What of metal? What of the very foundations of the world? He moves to his workbench, where ingots of mithril and gold lie stacked, tools gleaming. Imagine, he says, eyes bright, blades that never dull, powered by this light. Armor that mends itself, rings that preserve the lands around them, keeping them ever green, ever young. We could make realms that do not fade, cities that do not crumble. We could hold back the long defeat, Narvi snorts. And you think the powers will smile upon such works? He asks. They did not look kindly on your grandfather's treasures. Celebrimbor's jaw tightens. I am not Fëanor, he says. I do not seek to hoard the light for myself. I would share it. I would use it to heal what Morgoth marred. Is that not worthy? Narvi's gaze softens slightly. Worthy, perhaps, he says. But worth is not the same as safety. Remember that. Celebrimbor turns back to the glowing water, mind already racing. I will need to bind it, he murmurs. To catch the light, as my grandfather did, but in a different form. Not in jewels, but in circles, in rings. The sea's light is diffuse. I will focus it. He does not yet know that far away, another mind has turned to the same thought. In the dark halls beneath Angban's ruins, Sauron stands before a pool of black water. He has sent his servants far and wide, orcs and corrupted men and spirits bound to his will. They have brought him tales and samples, vials of glowing seawater, bits of coral that pulse faintly with white fire, fish whose scales shine in the dark. He has studied them all. Now he pours a small measure of the glowing water into the black pool. The light swirls, then spreads, a pale film on the surface. He extends a hand, fingers hovering just above. He feels the warmth. He feels the healing. The small cut on his thumb, earned from a careless slip with a blade, closes. He also feels something else, a resistance, a will. The light is not mindless. It carries within it the echo of Fëanor's fierce pride, of Vardis' hallowing, of the tree's pure radiance. It does not want to be used. It wants to be. Sauron smiles thinly. You are strong, he murmurs, but you are diffused, scattered. The sea holds you, but it does not command you. You are vulnerable. He lowers his hand into the water. Pain lances up his arm, sharp and bright. He hisses, teeth bared, but he does not pull back. He pushes his will down, into the light. Yield, he whispers. You were made. You can be remade. You were bound. You can be bound again. The light resists, flaring, trying to burn him away. For a moment, the cavern is filled with a pure, white shine that drives the shadows back. The orcs at the edges of the chamber cry out, shielding their eyes. Then the light dims. It does not yield. Not entirely, but it ceases to push. It is as if it has recognized something in him, a maker's mind, a will used to shaping and binding. Sauron withdraws his hand. His skin is unburned. His eyes are bright with triumph. Yes, he says softly, you can be turned, not to darkness perhaps, but to order, to my order. He looks up toward the unseen coasts. Let the elves play with their miracles, he says. Let them bathe and heal and sing songs of gratitude. While they do, I will learn the true nature of this gift. And when the time comes, I will forge it into chains. On the shores of Lindon, the first great council is called. Elrond, Gil-galad, Círdan, and others gather in a hall open to the sea, its pillars carved with waves and ships. The air smells of salt and incense. Outside, the sound of the glowing waves is a constant, gentle hush. Maps are spread on a long table, the coasts of Middle-earth, the known currents, the places where the glow is strongest. The light has reached as far south as Umbar, says a messenger from the southern coasts, his skin darkened by the sun, his hair bleached by salt. The corsair ships glow at night like ghosts. They say their wounded heal in days instead of weeks. And to the north, Gil-galad asks. A Sindarin captain steps forward. The ice of Foreshell cracks, she says, not from warmth enough to melt it entirely, but from subtle change. The currents shift. Seals and whales move in strange patterns. The Losoth are uneasy. They say the sea sings a new song. Círdan's brows draw together. The whole ocean, he murmurs. The entire girdle of Arda, touched by this light. It will not be confined to our shores. Elrond looks at the maps, then at the faces around the table. We cannot control it, he says. We can only choose how we respond. Already, I have had envoys from Eregion, from Khazad-dûm, from the Northmen beyond the Lune, asking for access to the healing waters. They come with gifts and with veiled threats. Gil-galad's jaw tightens. If we deny them, we risk war, he says. If we grant them free access, we risk chaos. The beaches would be overrun. The villages could not sustain such numbers. There is another risk, Círdan says quietly. We do not know what long exposure to this light will do. It heals now. But what of years hence? Will those who bathe in it be unchanged? Or will they be altered in ways we cannot foresee? The hall falls silent. Elrond's hand rests on the edge of the map, fingers splayed. I have felt its pull in my blood, he says. It calls to the part of me that is of the Eldar, that remembers the West. But I am also of men. I know their hearts. They will not be content with simple healing. They will seek to use this light to lengthen their days, to cheat death. He looks up, eyes dark, and death, for men, is a gift of Ilúvatar. To twist it, to deny it, is to court disaster. We have seen, in the pride of Numenor's ancestors, what comes of such desires. Gil-galad nods slowly. Then we must set limits, he says. We will allow the sick and wounded to come under our guidance. We will share the light as a mercy, not as a commodity. We will forbid any from drawing the water away in great quantity, from hoarding it inland. Círdan's gaze is thoughtful. Do you think you can forbid such a thing? He asks. Already people carry away jars and skins of the water in secret. Already. There is a black market in glowing vials. You can decree what you will, Gil-galad, but the sea touches every shore. Elrond's mouth tightens. Then we must do more than decree, he says. We must teach. We must make them understand the cost of misuse. We must be open, not hoarders. If we share what we know freely, perhaps there will be less temptation to steal. It is a hope. It is also, in part, a denial. For even as they speak, in a cave on a lonely stretch of coast, a group of men huddle around a shallow pool of glowing water, their faces lit from below. One of them, a man with a scar across his nose and a hard set to his mouth, holds up a small vial. With this, he says, we can charge any price. The lords in the east will pay dearly to keep their sons and daughters from the grave. The war chiefs of the south will trade gold and slaves for the power to heal their champions. Another man, younger, shifts uneasily. The elves will not like this, he says. They already watch the beaches. If they catch us, the scarred man snorts. The elves do not rule all coasts, he says, and they do not rule us. This light belongs to whoever can hold it. We are only taking what the sea offers. He dips the vial, filling it with shimmering water. None of them notice the way the glow within the vial is slightly dimmer than in the pool. None of them feel the subtle thinning of the light as it is divided and divided again. The Silmaril's radiance is vast, but it is not infinite. It has been shattered, its casing cracked, its light seeping into the world. Each act of taking, of binding, of using, alters it. In Eregion, Celebrimbor works. He has devised a method, small rings of gold and silver set with clear crystals their interiors etched with runes of holding. He dips them, one by one, into basins of glowing water, chanting softly, binding the light to the metal. The first rings shine brightly, their crystals filled with a soft, steady glow. When worn, they warm the flesh, ease pain, sharpen the senses. The elves of Eregion marvel. "You have done it," Narvi says, holding one up, watching the light refract. "You have caught the sea's fire." Celebrimbor's eyes are shadowed with both pride and unease. "Yes," he says, "but it is different, weaker. The light in the sea is pure, wild. In the rings it is tamed, but it loses something. It is as if I have taken a river and made a pool. Useful, but lesser." He flexes his fingers. "I must be careful," he says. "To bind too much, to draw too greedily, could unbalance something. I feel a tension, as if there is a limit I cannot see." Narvi nods. "Then perhaps you should stop," he says. "You have proved your craft." "Must you always push further?" Celebrimbor's jaw sets. "If I stop," he says, "others will not. You know the hearts of men. You know the whispers of the dwarven halls. They will seek to harness this light, with or without our guidance. Better that I learn its ways, that I set the pattern. Better that a friend of the West holds this knowledge than some dark power in the East." Narvi studies him for a long moment. "Be sure then," he says quietly, "that you remain a friend of the West." In the shadows beyond the forges, a tall figure watches. He is fair of face, his hair dark, his eyes keen. He wears simple gray, a craftsman's garb, and his name, in this guise, is Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. Sauron has come to Eregion. He has walked from the east in a form that does not frighten, bearing words of wisdom and offers of aid. He has seen the light in the sea, felt its power, and now he sees the rings that catch it. He smiles, a small, approving curve of the lips. "Your work is wondrous," he says, stepping forward, his voice smooth. "You have taken a wild thing and given it shape. But you feel the strain, do you not? The resistance. The light does not wish to be caged." Celebrimbor turns, eyes narrowing slightly. "You speak as if you know this light," he says, "as if you have handled it before." Anatar inclines his head. "I have seen many lights," he says, "in the lands of the east, where the stars are strange, in the forges of lost kingdoms. Light is power, and power is a burden. It must be guided, or it will burn those who touch it." He steps closer to the basin of glowing water. "The Silmarils were too rigid," he says, "too absolute. They held the light too tightly, and so they shattered the world around them. But this is more fluid. It can be shaped if one is subtle." He looks at Celebrimbor. "Let me help you," he says. "Together, we can craft vessels that do not strain the light, but harmonize with it. Rings that do not merely hold, but resonate. You seek to heal the hurts of the world. So do I." In his eyes, for a moment, there is a flicker of something like sincerity. For Sauron, too, once desired order, an end to chaos. His path has twisted, but the root of his will remains. Celebrimbor hesitates. He feels the danger. He feels also the lure. "Very well," he says at last. "Teach me." On the coasts, Medros and Maglor arrive. They do not ride openly. Their banners are furled, their armor dulled. They come as shadows, as ghosts of a bygone age, slipping through the fringes of Gil-galad's realm. From a cliff overlooking a luminous bay, Medros stands, wind tugging at his red hair. Below, the water glows softly, waves lapping at a pebbled shore. A group of villagers stand knee-deep, hands clasped, faces upturned in silent gratitude. Maglor stands beside him, cloak wrapped tight. Do you feel it? Medros asks quietly. Maglor nods, throat working. The oath, he says. It pulls, harder than ever. The light is everywhere. It is as if the very air hums with it. Medros' eyes are fever bright. We cannot seize the sea, he says. We cannot bottle the ocean and say, this is ours. The oath demands the Silmarils, but the Silmaril is broken. Its light scattered. How do we fulfill a vow that no longer has a clear object? Maglor's voice is hoarse. Perhaps we cannot, he says. Perhaps that is our punishment, to chase a phantom until the end of days. Medros' hand clenches. No, he says. There must be a way. The light is concentrated in some places more than others. There is a heart to this glow, a source. If we find it, if we take it, he trails off, staring at the waves. And then what? Maglor asks. Do we drain the sea? Do we tear apart the coasts? How many must die so that we can say we have kept an oath that has already destroyed everything we loved? Medros' jaw works. We are already damned, he says. What is one more sin? He turns away from the sea, his face a mask. We will search, he says, quietly. We will find the source, and when we do, we will take what we must. Maglor looks back at the glowing water, at the villagers whose wounds are being washed away. He whispers, so softly that the wind almost steals the words. Forgive us. Time passes. The light in the sea becomes a fact of the world, like the rising of the sun or the turning of the seasons. Children grow up who have never known a dark ocean. Songs are sung of the shining coast, of the healing waves. Pilgrims come from far lands, some to be cured, some merely to see. The immediate miracles are undeniable. Plagues that once ravaged coastal towns are blunted. Wounds that would have festered now close cleanly. Sailors who fall ill on long voyages recover after a single night anchored in luminous bays. The life expectancy of those who dwell near the sea quietly lengthens. But there are subtler changes. Those who bathe often in the glowing waters find their hair shot with pale streaks, as if kissed by starlight. Their eyes take on a faint luminescence in the dark. They dream more vividly of places far away, of trees that shine and white shores beyond the bent sea. Some begin to hear whispers, not words exactly, but impressions, a sense of longing, of unfinished purpose. The sea itself seems to call them, to draw them out into deeper waters. In one small village in Lindon, Taran, the boy who first waded into the light, is now a young man. He stands on the shore at night, the waves lapping at his boots, the water glowing around his feet. He stares out at the horizon, where the glow is brightest. Do you ever feel like it wants something? He asks his sister, who stands beside him, arms wrapped around herself against the chill. She frowns. The water? She asks. It does not want. It just is. He shakes his head. No, he says. There is a pull, a yearning, as if the light is not content here, as if it remembers somewhere else. His sister shivers. Do not talk like that, she says. Mother says the light is a blessing, that it came because the powers took pity on us. Taran's gaze is distant, or because someone defied them, he murmurs. He does not know how right he is. In Valinor, the Valar watch. They do not intervene. The doom of Mandos has been broken in one sense, but its consequences still unfold. They see the healing, the small mercies. They also see the gathering storms. Manwë sits upon Taniqatil, the wind playing with his robes. Earendil's choice has altered much, he says to Varda, who stands beside him, her eyes on the distant, glowing line of sea that marks the horizon. It has, Varda answers. The light of the trees, once bound in 3 jewels, is now in the waters of the world. It touches all shores, all peoples. It heals for now, but it also awakens. It stirs memories in the hearts of the Eldar, longings in the hearts of men. Namo appears, silent as a shadow. The fate of the Silmarils was always to be removed from the circles of the world, he says. One in the sky, one in the earth, one in the sea. Earendil has hastened the last, and in a manner not foreseen. The jewel is broken, its light diffused. Manwë's gaze is troubled. Should we act, he asks? Should we recall the light? Draw it back to us, lest it unmake what we have sought to heal? Varda's eyes are deep, reflecting stars. If we do, she says, we will tear the seas from their beds. The light has woven itself into the very fabric of the waters. To pull it free now would be to break the world again. We cannot unmake what has been done without greater ruin. Namo's voice is soft. Then we must let the children face the consequences, he says. They have been given a gift and a test. How they use this light will shape the ages to come. Varda's hand tightens on the parapet. I fear for them, she says, for the Eldar, who will be tempted to cling to fading days made bright again. For men, who will be tempted to grasp at immortality. For the Maya, who has already turned his mind to forging chains from this light. She does not speak Sauron's name, but it hangs in the air nonetheless. In Eregion, the forging begins in earnest. Under Anatar's guidance, Celebrimbor refines his craft. Together, they design rings not merely of holding, but of amplification. They mix the glowing seawater with molten mithril, with gold, with rare alloys. They chant over them, binding not only the light, but their own wills. The 3 are conceived differently. These will not be touched by any hand but ours, Anatar says, his tone earnest. They will be pure, untainted by any desire for dominion. They will preserve, not rule. Celebrimbor nods, his heart lifting. For the Elven realms, he says. To keep them fair, to hold back decay, to maintain a memory of the light of the West. He thinks of Lindon, of Lothlorien's budding woods, of Imladris' hidden valley. He thinks of the fading of the Eldar, the long defeat. We will make havens, he says, where time cannot entirely erode beauty. He does not see the flicker in Anatar's eyes. For Sauron's plan is more complex. He does not intend to directly corrupt the 3. He knows the elves are wary. Instead, he will make another ring. A master ring in the fires of Orodruin that will hold the key to all the others. But there is a difference in this timeline. The light he works with is not only the latent power of Middle-earth, but the active, living radiance of the Silmaril's sea-spread fire. The rings he forges, both with and without Celebrimbor's knowledge, are more potent than in the original history. They do not merely preserve, they can subtly alter the flows of the light itself. He tests this in small ways. In a hidden chamber, he sets a ring on his finger and dips his hand into a basin of glowing water. The light around his skin dims slightly, drawn into the metal. When he withdraws his hand, the ring shines brighter. He smiles. With this, he murmurs, I can redirect the sea's fire. I can gather it, focus it. The elves think to use these rings to preserve their little gardens. They do not see that they are also building conduits, channels through which the world's light can be made to flow. He looks east, toward the dark land that will one day be called Mordor. I will need a furnace, he says softly, a mountain's heart. And when I am done, the sea itself will answer to my hand. On the coasts, the first signs of strain appear. In a bay south of Mithlond, the glow of the water flickers, Fish wash ashore, their scales dim, their bodies still. The villagers whisper of an ill omen. Elrond comes to investigate, standing on the damp sand, the dead fish at his feet. He kneels, touching one gently. It is warm, as if it had only just died. He looks up at the water. The glow is uneven here, patches of brightness and darkness. It is as if someone has drawn upon a reservoir too greedily, leaving some parts depleted. He feels a faint ache in his chest, a hollowness. It is being drawn, he says quietly. Somewhere, somehow, someone is pulling at the light. Círdan, beside him, nods grimly. I have felt the current shift, he says. Not in the water alone, but in the light within it. It flows more strongly toward the southeast now, toward lands that are not yet widely known. Elrond's mind turns to rumors. A new power rises in the east, he says. A lord of gifts in Eregion, a shadow in the ruins of Angband. Could it be? He trails off, unwilling to name the fear. Círdan's gaze is steady. You have always been far-sighted, Elrond, he says. Trust that sight now. If the light of your father's jewel is being bound again, it will not be by a hand that means us well. In Eregion, Celebrimbor begins to doubt. He has learned much from Annatar. His rings are wonders. The three in particular are beautiful beyond words. Naria, Nenya, Vilia, each set with a crystal that holds a captured fragment of the sea's glow, each humming with power. But he has also noticed the changes in the sea. The glow is dimmer near our coasts, he says one evening, standing with Annatar on a balcony overlooking his city. The air is cool, scented with forge smoke and the distant tang of the sea. The fishermen say the healing is not as strong as it once was. They say the brightest light now lies far to the southeast. Annatar's expression is smooth. The world is vast, he says. The currents shift. The light spreads. It is natural that some places will wax while others wane. Celebrimbor's eyes narrow. Is it natural, he asks, that when I wear certain of the rings and stand by the water, the glow near my feet grows brighter? That when I remove them, it fades? Is it natural that the rings seem to drink the light? Annatar's gaze meets his. You are a smith, he says. You know that every working has a cost. To bind the light, to focus it, is to draw it from somewhere. But think of what you gain. Realms preserved, wounds healed, decay held at bay. Is a slight dimming of the sea not a fair price? Celebrimbor's jaw tightens. And if the price grows, he asks, if we and others like us draw more and more, until the sea's light is no longer a gift to all, but a resource hoarded by the few, Annatar's voice softens. Then we will be careful, he says. We will set limits. We will guide the use of the rings wisely. He places a hand on Celebrimbor's shoulder. You fear becoming your grandfather, he says. You fear that your work will bring ruin as his did. But you are not Fëanor. You share. You teach. You do not hoard knowledge. He smiles faintly. Trust yourself, Celebrimbor. Trust that you can do what he could not. Wield great power without falling to pride. Celebrimbor looks away toward the distant glimmer of the sea. He wants to believe. In the south, the Haradrim reach the shining coast. They stand on a beach of fine, pale sand, the waves lapping at their feet, the water glowing softly. The leader with the serpent tattoos kneels, cupping the water in her hands. She drinks. Warmth floods her, easing the old ache in her bones, the scars of long marches under a burning sun. She laughs, a sound of pure delight. This is it, she says, the gift promised in the songs. Her people wade in, some cautiously, some with abandon. Children splash, their laughter ringing. Old men sigh as pain leaves their limbs. For a time, there is only joy. Then slowly, changes begin. The Haradrim, who remain by the sea, find that they tire less easily. Their wounds heal quickly. Their elders live longer than any remember. They begin to see in the dark, just a little. Their eyes take on a faint, golden sheen. They also begin to dream of the West. Not of conquest, not yet, but of white shores and tall ships, and a light that is both familiar and alien. They wake with tears on their faces, not knowing why. Their leader stands on a cliff one night, looking out at the glowing sea. "Is this a gift," she murmurs, "or a leash?" In the east, beyond the knowledge of most in the west, a warlord bathes in a pool of glowing water brought from distant coasts. His wounds knit, his strength grows. He laughs, raising a cup of wine. "With this," he says, "I will never fall. I will rule until the mountains crumble." He does not notice that his hair, once black, now glints with silver. He does not notice that his reflection in the water looks slightly thinner, as if some part of him has been stretched. For the light of the Silmaril can heal, but it also binds. Those who bathe in it too often become, in a way, attuned to it. Their fates entangle with the sea. They find it hard to leave the coasts for long. Inland, they sicken, their bodies craving the light. A new kind of dependency begins to form. On a lonely shore, Medros and Maglor find something unexpected. They have followed rumors, whispers of a place where the sea's glow is strongest, where the water is almost too bright to look upon. They come to a cove, hidden by high cliffs, its entrance narrow. The water here is blinding. It shines with a fierce, white radiance, far brighter than anywhere else along the coast. The waves are gentle, but each one that breaks on the shore leaves behind a trace of light that lingers on the sand before fading. Medros steps to the water's edge, his breath catching. "The heart," he says. "This is it, the source, the place where the jewel's light is closest to the surface." Maglor's eyes sting. "It is beautiful," he whispers, "and terrible." Medros kneels, his remaining hand hovering over the water. The oath roars in his blood. It is a fire, a command, a demand that is never lessened. It pulls him forward, urges him to plunge his hand into the light, to seize it, to make it his. He hesitates. In the reflection on the water's surface, he sees his own face, lined, scarred, haunted. He sees Maglor behind him, eyes hollow. He sees two other faces, flickering. Feanor's burning gaze, Fingon's smile, Elrond and Elros as children, terrified and defiant. He hears, faintly, the cries of the havens of Sirion, the clash of steel, the crackle of flames. His hand trembles. "No," he whispers, "no more." The oath snarls, a chain around his soul. It tightens, as if to choke him. Pain lances through him, sharp and bright. Maglor steps forward, laying a hand on his brother's shoulder. "Maedhros," he says softly. "You do not have to." Maedhros laughs, a bitter, broken sound. "I do," he says. "That is the curse. That is the nature of what we swore. It will not let me rest. It will not let me turn away." He closes his eyes. "But perhaps," he says, "I can choose how I obey." He plunges his hand into the water. Light sears his skin. He screams, the sound echoing off the cliffs. Maglor cries out, reaching for him, but the glow flares, blinding. For a moment, Medros feels everything. He feels the weight of the sea, the curve of the world, the memory of the two trees, the sorrow of Varda, the pride of Feanor, the despair of the Noldor. He feels the oath, a black thread woven through all of it. He also feels, faintly, a point of greater brightness, far below. The shattered remains of the Silmaril's casing, still intact enough to be a focus. He understands. He cannot take the light, not all of it. It is too vast, too diffused, but he can take a shard, a fragment, enough to satisfy, perhaps, the letter of the oath, if not its spirit. He grasps. When the light dims, he staggers back, collapsing on the sand. His hand is burned, the skin white and cracked, but in his palm he holds a small, glowing splinter of crystal. It shines with a fierce, pure light, undiluted by water. It is a piece of the Silmaril. Maglor stares, horror and awe warring in his eyes. "What have you done?" he whispers. Medros laughs weakly. "I have taken what the oath demanded," he says. "A Silmaril, or a part of one. Perhaps it will be enough. Perhaps it will let us rest." He clutches the shard to his chest. For a moment, the oath's fire eases. Far out at sea, the glow flickers. In Lindon, Elrond feels a sudden ache, as if something has been torn. He stumbles, gripping a railing, eyes wide. "What is it?" Gil-galad asks, catching his arm. "The light," Elrond gasps. "Something has changed. A piece has been taken." Círdan looks out at the waves. "The heart has been wounded," he says softly. In Valinor, Varda stiffens. "Feanor's sons," she whispers. They reach even now. In the hidden cove, Medros lies on the sand, the shard of Silmaril clutched in his burned hand. The light sears him. It burns his flesh, his spirit. He screams, rolling, trying to let go, but his fingers are frozen. Maglor kneels beside him, torn. "Medros," he cries, "you must release it." Medros' eyes are wild. "I cannot," he gasps. "It will not let me." He laughs, a ragged sound, just as the oath would not let me go. The shard burns brighter, its light eating into him. His skin blackens around it. Smoke rises. Maglor looks from his brother to the sea, to the glowing waves that now seem dimmer, as if recoiling. He makes a choice. He seizes Medros, dragging him toward the water. Medros thrashes, screaming, but Maglor is relentless. He plunges his brother's hand, and the shard it holds, into the sea. There is a flash, a sound like a bell shattering. The light around them flares, then implodes, rushing inward. The shard dissolves, its radiance pouring back into the water. Medros convulses, then goes limp. Maglor pulls him back onto the sand, heart pounding. Medros' hand is gone, burned away. His arm ends in a blackened stump. His face is pale, his breathing shallow. The oath is quiet. For the first time since he swore it, Medros feels nothing. No pull, no command, no fire. He laughs weakly. "It is gone," he whispers. "The oath, it is silent." Maglor's eyes fill with tears. "At what cost?" he asks. Medros looks at the sea, at the glow that has steadied, though it is perhaps a shade dimmer than before. "At the only cost it would accept," he says. "Everything." He closes his eyes. "I am so tired, Maglor," he whispers. "Let me rest." Maglor holds him as the waves lap at their feet, the light washing over them. Medros, son of Feanor, dies on a lonely shore, not in fire or in battle, but in the arms of his last remaining brother, the sea's glow reflecting in his still eyes. Maglor weeps, his song a low, broken thing that the waves carry away. The oath is broken. Its unbinding sends a shiver through the world. In Lindon, Elrond feels a weight lift from the air, a subtle tension ease. He does not know its cause, but he knows something dark has passed. In Valinor, Namo nods once. "One thread is cut," he says. The tapestry shifts. The sea's light, freed from the shard's attempted theft, surges. For a time, the glow brightens along all coasts. The healing grows stronger. The dreams intensify. The call of the West becomes a song that many hear. In Eregion, Celebrimbor stands at his forge, one of the three on his hand. He feels the surge, the flood of light pouring through the unseen channels the rings have made. He staggers, gripping the anvil. Anatar appears at his side, eyes gleaming. "Do you feel it?" he asks. The world's blood rushing. Celebrimbor looks at him, breathless. "What happened?" he asks. "Something broke. Then there was a release." Anatar's smile is small. "Old vows," he says. "Old chains." They snap, and the currents change. He looks at the ring on Celebrimbor's hand. "You see now," he says. "The rings are not merely vessels. They are conduits. You can guide the light. You can direct it where it is needed most. You can strengthen your realms, your havens, by drawing more of the sea's fire to them." Celebrimbor's eyes flick to the basin of glowing water and weaken other places, he says softly. "By drawing it away." Anatar's voice is smooth. "Balance," he says. "You cannot increase in one place without decreasing in another. But is it not better that the light be focused where it can do the most good? In Elven realms, in places of wisdom and beauty, rather than wasted on the wild, empty seas." Celebrimbor stares at him. "You speak as if the sea were not alive," he says, "as if it were merely a resource. But I have felt something in it, a will, a memory. To draw too much, to alter its nature, seems," he gropes for the word, "arrogant." He finishes. Anatar's eyes harden, just for a heartbeat. "Arrogant," he repeats. "Like forging jewels to hold the light of the trees. Like sailing to the undying lands unbidden, bearing a stolen Silmaril. The history of your people is one long tale of arrogance. Why stop now, when you could finally achieve something that endures?" Celebrimbor's hand tightens on the ring. He thinks of his grandfather. He thinks of Earendil. He thinks of the sea, glowing under starlight, healing the wounds of simple fisher folk. He takes the ring off. Anatar's eyes widen, just slightly. "What are you doing?" he asks. Celebrimbor sets the ring on the anvil. "I am stepping back," he says. "I have seen enough to know that we stand on the edge of something vast. If we continue, we may not be able to turn aside." He looks at Anatar. "Who are you?" he asks quietly. "Truly, no more masks. No more half-truths. You speak of light and order, of guiding the world, but your eyes are like those I saw in Tales of Angband." Anatar's smile dies. For a moment, there is silence. Then he straightens, his fair form seeming taller, more terrible. "I am Sauron," he says. "Once of owlless folk, now lord of the world that Morgoth left behind. I would see it ordered, perfected, unified under a single will. The light you toy with is a tool. With it, I could end the squabbling of petty kings, the waste of endless wars. I could bring peace." Celebrimbor's face is pale. "Peace under your rule," he says. "Peace enforced by fear. I have heard such promises before." He steps back from the anvil. "You will not have my rings," he says. "You will not use my craft to chain the sea." Sauron's eyes blaze. "Fool," he says softly. "You think you can stop what you have begun? The channels are made. The conduits exist. Whether you wield them or I do, the light will be bound. The only question is who will hold the leash." He reaches for the ring. Celebrimbor snatches it up and hurls it into the basin of glowing water. There is a flash. The ring dissolves, its metal and crystal melting into the light. The basin boils, steam rising. Sauron snarls. "You dare," he says. Celebrimbor's hand goes to a hidden lever. He pulls it. The floor beneath Sauron's feet opens, a trapdoor dropping him into a pit of molten metal. For a moment, the hall is filled with heat and the smell of burning. Then Sauron rises from the pit, his fair form scorched but unbroken, his eyes now pits of flame. "You think I did not see your little safeguards?" he hisses. "You think you can outwit me in my own art?" he lashes out. Celebrimbor is thrown against the wall, breath driven from his lungs. The forging of the rings becomes a war. In Eregion, fire and light battle in the forges. Celebrimbor, wounded but defiant, seizes the three and flees, sending them away to Gil-galad, to Galadriel, to Círdan. Sauron, enraged, unleashes his armies, orcs and corrupted men and creatures of fire. The War of the Elves and Sauron begins, as in the original tale, but with a new, terrible element. Sauron has already forged his master ring in Orodruin, binding not only the power of the other rings, but also a direct link to the sea's light. When he puts it on, standing on a black rock overlooking a hidden bay, the water around him dims. He laughs. "I see you," he says, looking west. "Earendil's gift, Feanor's pride, Varda's hallowing. You thought to escape the chains of jewels by flooding the world. But chains can be made of waves as well as of metal." He raises his hand. The light in the sea surges toward him. In Lindon, the water at the shore suddenly darkens. The glow recedes, drawn out to sea. Fisher folk cry out as the healing they have come to rely on fades. Elrond, standing on a cliff, feels a wrenching in his chest. He is pulling it. He gasps. He is drawing the light to himself. Círdan's face is grim. "Sauron," he says. "He has found a way to bind what should not be bound. Gil-galad's hand goes to the hilt of his spear. Then we must break his hold," he says, "or the sea itself will become his servant." The war spreads. Sauron's armies march west, burning Eregion, besieging Lindon. The elves fight desperately, their new rings giving them strength, but also making them targets. The dwarves of Khazad-dûm close their doors, retreating into their mountain. At sea, strange things happen. Storms rise without warning, not from the valor, but from the conflict between Sauron's will and the sea's own nature. Waves crash against coasts, glowing and dark by turns. Ships are thrown about like toys. In one such storm, a Numenorian vessel, sent by Tar-Minastir to aid Gil-galad, is nearly sunk. Its captain, a man named Amandil, stands at the prow, rain lashing his face, the glowing waves towering. He grips the rail. "Eru," he whispers, "if you hear us, guide us. We come in aid of your children." A wave of pale light rises, higher than the mast. For a moment, Amandil sees within it a shape, a ship of silver, a man with a shining brow, eyes full of sorrow. Then the wave breaks around them, not upon them. The storm eases. Amandil falls to his knees, breathless. "Earendil," he whispers. "Your father still watches." The Numenorians arrive in Lindon, their tall ships gleaming, their warriors strong. They fight beside Gil-galad, pushing Sauron's forces back, but the cost is high. On a battlefield near the sea, Elrond faces a host of orcs. His sword is red, his arm aches. The light of the sea, once a constant comfort, flickers in his senses, pulled and twisted by Sauron's will. He sees in the distance Sauron himself, tall and terrible, the master ring on his hand. The air around him shimmers with stolen light. Elrond knows he cannot face him alone. He retreats, fighting a rearguard action, buying time for Gil-galad and the Numenorians to regroup. In the chaos, a young Numenorian warrior falls, his side torn by a jagged blade. He gasps, blood bubbling on his lips. Elrond kneels beside him, pressing a hand to the wound. "Hold on," he says. "We are near the sea. Its light can still heal." He drags the man, half carrying, half pulling, toward the shore. The waves glow faintly, dimmer than before, but still bright enough to see by. He lays the warrior in the shallows. The water washes over the wound. The bleeding slows. The torn flesh knits. The Numenorian's eyes flutter open. "You are Elrond," he gasps. Half Elven, son of Earendil. Elrond nods, breathless. "Yes," he says. "Rest now." The man smiles weakly. "My people owe your father much," he says. "We sail because of him. We live because of you." He closes his eyes, the light of the sea reflecting on his pale face. Elrond sits back, exhausted. He feels the sea's warmth, but also its strain. The healing is slower, the light thinner. "We are bleeding it," he whispers. "We and Sauron both." The war grinds on. Sauron is eventually driven back. As in the original history, by the combined might of elves and Numenorians. He retreats to Mordor, to his dark tower, licking his wounds, plotting. But he does not lose his master ring. He still holds a chain to the sea. He uses it more subtly now, no longer drawing great floods of light that alert his enemies, but siphoning in small, constant measures. He feeds it into his forges, into his creatures, into himself. The land around Mordor begins to change. It is not merely a place of ash and fire. Strange, pale plants grow near hidden springs that glow faintly. Creatures with luminous eyes prowl the borders. The light of the Silmaril, twisted and tainted, mingles with the darkness. In Numenor, tales of the shining sea and its healing reach the ears of kings. Tar Minastir, who aided Gil-galad, is wise and cautious. He allows some of the glowing water to be brought to Numenor, but he sets strict limits. It is used to heal the sick, to ease the suffering of the old, but not to unnaturally lengthen lives. His successors are not so restrained. As the generations pass, the lure of the sea's light grows. Numenorian mariners, already longer lived than other men, begin to bathe in the glowing bays of Middle-earth, returning home with a subtle radiance in their eyes. The line of kings notices. "Why should our captains and sailors have this gift?" one king demands, "and not we who sit upon the throne? Are we not greater? Is not all that they find in Middle-earth ours by right?" He orders that the glowing water be brought in greater quantities. Cisterns of shimmering liquid are built in Armenelos. The nobility bathe in them, their skin smoothing, their hair shining, their vigor renewed. The common folk watch, resentful. Priests of the Valar warn against this. The gift of men is death, they say. To cling too tightly to life is to rebel against the purpose of Ilúvatar. The king scoffs. "The Valar withheld this light from us," he says. "It was Earendil, a man and an elf, who brought it back. We merely claim what is ours. The more they bathe, the more they change. Their lifespans stretch, but not without cost. Their dreams are filled with the sea. They find it hard to bear the thought of leaving Numenor's shores. Inland journeys become rare. Their children are restless, born with eyes that gleam faintly even in darkness. The fear of death, already strong in Numenorian hearts, becomes a terror. If the light can do this, whispers Ar-Pharazôn in a later age, what more might be found in the undying lands themselves? His envy of the Eldar, his resentment of the Valar, are sharpened by the knowledge that he has tasted the light of the West and found it wanting. It is not enough. It delays death, but does not banish it. He looks west, across the sea, and dreams of conquest. The downfall of Numenor, when it comes, is both similar to and different from the one we know. Ar-Pharazôn still sails with a vast armada to the shores of Aman, still sets foot on the Forbidden Lands, still triggers the great cataclysm that bends the world. But the sea's light plays a role. As his ships approach the undying lands, the water around them glows fiercely. The light of the Silmaril, diffused in the sea, recognizes the shores it once illuminated. It surges, rushing toward Aman. The Valor feel the pull. They bring with them our stolen light, Varda says, standing on a white cliff, watching the black sails approach. They have bathed in it, bound it, twisted it. They come not only with steel, but with a piece of our own grace turned against us. Manwë's face is grave. Then we must act, he says, not only to protect these shores, but to prevent the sea's light from being used as a weapon against the order of the world. He calls upon Ilúvatar. The world is changed. The seas rise. Numenor sinks. The undying lands are removed from the circles of the world. The straight road is hidden. The sea's light, which had flowed freely around the globe, is disrupted. In the chaos, much is lost. The glowing coasts of Middle-earth are ravaged by tsunamis. Villages are wiped away. The healing bays are churned to foam. Many who had become dependent on the sea's light perish, unable to flee inland, but not all is gone. The light is not entirely removed. It is too deeply woven into the waters. Instead, it is thinned, dispersed further. The glow that once was bright along all coasts becomes faint, visible only on the clearest nights, in the calmest seas. The age of obvious miracles ends. In Lindon, Elrond stands on a battered shore, the wreckage of ships around him. The sea is dark, save for a faint, distant gleam. He feels the absence keenly. It is quieter, he says softly. The light that once sang now whispers. Círdan stands beside him, his face lined with new grief. Perhaps that is for the best, he says. We were not meant to live forever in the reflection of the trees. The light was a mercy, but it became a crutch. It was twisted, hoarded, fought over. He looks at Elrond. You still feel it, do you not? He asks. A thread in your blood. Elrond nods. Yes, he says. Faint, but there. My father's gift, my grandfather's pride. It will never leave me. He looks at the darkening waves. We misused it, he says. We let it be bound in rings, in cisterns, in the greed of kings. We tried to hold what was meant to flow. And yet, without it, how many more would have died in the wars? How much more suffering would there have been? Círdan's gaze is distant. Gifts are rarely simple, he says. They come with burdens, with choices. You cannot unmake what has been done. You can only choose differently next time. He smiles faintly. And there will be a next time. Darkness is not ended. Sauron still walks. The rings still exist. The sea's light, though dimmed, still touches the world. In Imladris, years later, Elrond sits with a small group, a hobbit with curious eyes named Frodo, a wizard in gray named Gandalf, a man of the West named Aragorn. They speak of the One Ring, of Sauron's power, of the need to destroy it. The sea's light is now a legend, a story of a time when the oceans glowed and wounds closed with a touch. Most alive have never seen it, but its echo lingers. Gandalf, pipe in hand, looks at Elrond. You remember when the sea shone, he says, when the light of the Silmaril washed the coasts? Elrond nods. I do, he says. It was beautiful and terrible. It healed much. It also nearly gave Sauron a chain to the world's heart. Frodo listens, eyes wide. So this ring, he says, holding up the small, plain band of gold, is like those rings you forged with that light. Elrond's gaze is steady. In a way, he says, it is a vessel of will and power. It seeks to bind, to dominate. The rings we made were meant to preserve, but they became conduits for Sauron's control. The sea's light taught us that even the purest radiance can be turned to dark ends if bound too tightly. Aragorn's hand rests on the hilt of his sword. And yet, he says, we would not refuse healing if it were offered now. We march to war. Many will fall. If the sea still shone as it did, would we not be tempted to use it? Gandalf's eyes are thoughtful. Tempted, yes, he says, but perhaps wiser. The history of the Shining Sea is a warning as well as a comfort. It teaches that no power, however holy its origin, is safe in the hands of the proud. He looks at Frodo. That is why you must go to Mordor, he says. Not to wield the ring, not to use its power for good, but to unmake it. To let the river of the world's fate run without this stone in its course. Frodo swallows. And the sea's light, he asks, is it gone? Elrond smiles, a little sadly. Not gone, he says, just quieter. It is in the mists that rise from the waves at dawn. It is in the way wounds sometimes heal a little faster by the shore. It is in the dreams of sailors who see a white ship on the horizon when no ship sails there. He pauses. And it is in the west, he says softly. For when Numenor fell and the world was bent, some of the light withdrew, following Earendil's path. It shines now along the straight road, a guide for those who are permitted to take it. Frodo looks down at the ring in his hand, then up at the distant sound of the Bruinen's waters. So much, he says quietly, from one choice. Elrond nods. My father chose to break the doom, he says. To bring a forbidden light back to Middle-earth. It saved many. It doomed others. It gave Sauron a new path to power. It also gave us hope in dark times. He looks at Frodo. Your choice will be no simpler, he says, but you will not make it alone. The story of the Shining Sea becomes part of the great tapestry of Arda, another thread in the long history of light and darkness, pride and mercy. After the War of the Ring, when the One is destroyed, when Sauron's tower falls and his shadow is blown away, the sea is very quiet. In Mithlond, Círdan stands on the quay as a white ship is readied. The air is cool, the water is calm. The glow that once lit the depths is now a faint, elusive thing, visible only if one does not look directly at it. Elrond comes, Frodo beside him, Bilbo shuffling along, Gandalf in white. They board the ship. As it pulls away from the shore, Frodo stands at the rail, looking down. For a moment, he thinks he sees something, a pale light, deep below, moving with the swell of the waves. He feels a warmth in his side, where the old wound from the Morgul blade still aches on bad days. The ache eases. He smiles, a small, surprised curve of the lips. Elrond, he says softly. It is still there. Elrond comes to stand beside him, following his gaze. Yes, he says, the sea remembers. The light may be dim, but it is not gone. It never will be, as long as the world endures. It has become part of the bones of Arda. He looks west, where the sky meets the water. And beyond, he says, there is a greater light. One that does not need jewels, or seas, or rings to shine. We have spent ages trying to catch fragments of it, to bind it, to own it. Perhaps, at the end, we will learn to simply stand in it. The ship sails on. Night falls. The stars come out, cold and clear. Among them, one shines brighter than the rest. Earendil's star, high and distant. On the dark sea below, a faint, answering gleam moves with the waves. The world has changed. The shining coasts are a memory. The wars fought over the Silmaril's sea, spread light have scarred lands and hearts. Numenor lies beneath the waves, its cisterns of glowing water drowned. The rings that bound the light are fading, their power spent. Yet somewhere, in the deeps of Belegaer, where the shattered remnants of the Silmaril's casing lie half buried in silt, a small, steady radiance burns on. It is no longer a jewel to be stolen, no longer a weapon to be wielded. It is simply light, patient, and enduring. Far above, on a lonely shore of Middle-earth where no great city stands, a child of men walks at dusk. She comes to the water's edge, toes sinking into wet sand, and looks out at the dark waves. For a moment, in the trough between two swells, she sees a glow. It is faint, like the last ember of a dying fire. It flickers, then steadies. She feels, without knowing why, a sense of vast sorrow and vast love, intertwined. She reaches out a hand as if to touch the light, though it is far beyond her grasp. The wave rises, hiding it. When it falls again, the sea is dark. The child stands for a long time, listening to the hush of the water, the whisper of the wind. Then she turns and walks home, leaving a trail of small, fading footprints that the sea quietly, gently erases.